Welcome to another Northern Monkey's datasheet review. This time we're looking at Marneus Calgar and how you can get the most out of him in your Space Marine army. So Calgar got a fancy new Primaris model a few years ago, along with two Vitrix Guard to keep him safe on the battlefield. So let's talk about this unit and the detachments and units that he can lead in order to get the most out of them. So right off the start, this is kind of a unit and datasheet of two halves. You've got Calgar and then you've got Vitrix Guard. We'll talk about the main man first, Calgar. Movement 6 means that he's fast, he's not going to slow anyone down despite his Gravis armour. Toughness 6, really nice, just a bit more durable, it might come up sometimes. The 2-up armour save, as good as it gets. And 6 wounds. Now that's pretty decent 6 wounds, it's more than your average captain. However, I've found that the break points, with them being how they are, you tend to be up against damage 3, damage 2. It doesn't, it gives him an extra pip against damage 2. He can take, 2 hits before he goes down, but 3 will still get him. So, I don't know. He's not the toughest in combat, but thankfully he has a lot of tricks that kind of make up for that base profile. And then in terms of his actual ranged output, those gauntlets of Ultramar, they're not a joke. 4 shots at 18-inch range, hits on 2s, the strength 4, but twin linked. AP1 damage 2, you've always been surprised by how this guy can sort of punch out and hit enemy units. It's not bad. It's certainly worth remembering that he's got them, and he can even blaze away in combat thanks to that pistol keyword. But his melee weapons are where Calgar really shines. 6 attacks, hits on 2s, strength 8, AP 3 and 3 damage. Wow, that's pretty good. And I think the thing that really steps him up is, like aggressors, this guy's twin linked on that. Oh, it just makes him so consistent. I often find that this guy and his unit are so good that they're worth going into the Oath of the Moment target. Ultramarines with Guilliman around, you have multiple ways to get double Oath if you need to, but Calgar going into the Oath target, regardless of all that, absolutely fantastic. Hitting on 2s re-rolling with his strength 8 and +1 to wound, yet wounding on 2s, 3s, re-rolling, absolutely excellent thanks to his twin link profile there. And the AP 3 damage 3 means power armor, he just punches through it, vehicles, he threatens everything. With his 6 attacks and the fact that you're 2s and 2s re-rolling, means against anything T7 or lower, you're just going to clear out like 3 Terminators, a whole squad of Space Marines, and even do like serious damage into vehicles. This guy's melee should not be underestimated. And even if Calgar's melee profile wasn't worth the 200 points he costs, I'll tell you what, he's got some damn fine abilities to go with it. Inspiring Leader, this amps the hell out of any squad this guy gets put in, basically giving them advance and shoot, advance and charge, and fall back, shoot and charge. It's just everything. It makes the squad such a mobile, slippery, play piece that will just enhance anything that he's in. It's an absolutely fantastic thing, and it really makes him sort of more versatile, makes him faster, and also means that any squad that he's in just goes up to 11. And on top of that, Master Tactician, as long as you're Warlord, you gain a command point every command phase. Absolutely fantastic for Space Marines. They have some great stratagems, and this guy can just let you get the most out of them while still being able to score all your secondaries. And then the second component to this datasheet, the Vitrix Guard. These guys are quite cool. They're 3 wounds apiece with a 2-up armor save and a 4-up invuln, so relatively durable themselves. They add 10 pretty high quality attacks to the guy. They've got hitting on 2s, so yeah, even though they're only strength 5, you've got ways around that with +1 to wound from Oath, etc. I don't know, they just really let him sort of blend, and any unit that Calgar gets put in has a serious melee component thanks to these Vitrix Guard. They can't really get tied down by chaff because him and his guys alone kick out 16 high quality attacks. But also, these Vitrix Guard can really help just chop through squads of Marines and anything like that. Really, really good to have. They also, while they're in the squad, they give a 4-up feel no pain to Calgar, which basically makes him immune to precision. He's the sort of character with his slightly less than stellar defense and amazing abilities and buffs. He's the sort of character that your opponent wants to precision out of a squad. But as long as you've got the Vitrix around giving him that 4-up feel no pain, there's just no way he's going down to anything like that. And on top of that, the fact that they're not characters means that when he's leading a unit, you can have these Vitrix Guard tank saves for stuff. So if you're leading Gravis, where they don't have a 2-up armor save, the Vitrix can tank, they've got the 4-up invuln. They're just a really, really nice component. Now, I'm not sure how exactly that 4 up feel no pain interacts with Calgar and the squad. Like if in one massive activation your opponent kills the Vitrix and starts doing wounds to Calgar, I don't know whether they still count as being alive. If anyone has any like definitive rulings on this, it'd be really helpful, so let us know in the comments. And while we're talking about this guy, I just thought I'd take some time to quickly recommend the Marneus Calgar comic. You can get access to this online. It's actually quite fun. Some of the story elements of it are sort of like whatever, you know, all about him and giving him some backstory. It's interesting enough stuff, but what I really think is great about this book is the art. There's some absolutely amazing sort of visceral 40k stuff that you don't really see that much these days. Like him literally just tearing the top off this cultist like he's cracking into a cold one, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. He just goes ham throughout the comic. There's some extreme like gore, but also some like quite dark themes around like servitors and the Imperium, and yeah, it's just cool. It's good sort of grim media, especially once you get past the kind of surface level of the hero's origin story. Yeah, pretty cool. So Gladius Task Force. This one might seem a bit contrary for Calgar, given that he gives all of the doctrines to his unit, but actually that just kind of lets him act more as like an independent missile with his squad, where you don't have to kind of rely on those to keep him moving. And as long as he's giving you that forward pressure, you can almost save your doctrines for later and the rest of your army. Calgar can often make a very good either counter punch or first wave, kind of delivering that to the enemy. So yeah, I think he's great in Gladius. It's the best Marine detachment anyway, so why wouldn't you put him in it? He does get some particular little good benefits though. Storm of Fire, for example, this gives his unit ignores cover and +1 AP. That's pretty decent, especially with his gauntlets adding to the unit's firepower. You know, they become AP2 twin linked. All of a sudden, they're not such a nothing with those 4 shots. Yeah, definitely if they're going into the Oath target, those are some threatening guns. And if his unit himself has got some firepower to back that up, that's great. And on to the chapter, the +1 to wound. Again, fantastic for those Vitrix with their strength 5 attacks. Fantastic for Calgar in terms of like punching into vehicles. If you don't have the Oath of Moment, on the chapter can really like tune up your damage. That lance keyword is fantastic. And as well with Calgar and his Vitrix being so tough, there's kind of some benefit for the fight on death stratagem that you get there, where you can kind of force your opponent like into going into, you know, say there's Calgar and a Vitrix left. That's still worth fighting on death into a lot of targets, just because Calgar does so much damage. Really good. In squad tactics, this basically lets you make a reactive move when your opponent comes within 9 of you. Quite good on Calgar. Him and his Vitrix have that move 6, so they can take full advantage of that. If you're in the tactical doctrine, you auto move 6, or if you just roll well, him and his whole squad can kind of use that advance and charge to kind of get in there, do a bit of damage, and then as your opponent tries to counter attack, then you maybe move out of the way of one of the units that's doing that, and all of a sudden Calgar and the Vitrix can win that fight against the 1 or 2 units that can get into them. So yeah, Gladius, absolutely fantastic for Calgar. Now this is a bit of an old meta pick in many ways, Vanguard Spearhead with Calgar. Now I think John Lennon, the guy from Art of War, he saw some great results taking this to kind of like world championships and stuff. Vanguard Spearhead is great. There's a lot of bonuses that it can give, and especially to Calgar. Now I just want to shout out to this old school Calgar art. I love that, like, just him grinning like a maniac. He's having so much fun, like, slaughtering these orcs, and I feel like Space Marines don't have that, like, manic energy enough as like they used to. Really good stuff. Just that crazy banner. Oh, just good. But anyway, Vanguard Spearhead. Brilliant detachment, a lot of bonuses. The detachment roll gives your opponent -1 to hit and your unit the benefit of cover if their opponent's more than 12 away from you. Really good, because Calgar's already very durable with his Vitrix, and it can just like drive that toughness up to a point where your opponent just can't officially deal with them in shooting, so they need to go into melee where they excel. It's a really good detachment roll. You can do some shenanigans with the Blade Driven Deep enhancement. Basically that means that whatever squad has this enhancement on one of their leaders, they get infiltrators. Now you can imagine how terrifying that is for your enemy if Calgar, who can advance and charge, is sort of already sat in the midfield just ready to get ploughing into their lines turn 1. Really good, and can kind of play those mind games and let you sort of alpha strike your opponent very hard. And the reason Calgar can take that is because basically an apothecary biologist or a lieutenant can join the same squads as Calgar, allowing them to carry that, which it does sort of mean you're investing in this like super squad, but I think inside of the right kind of context and how good Calgar and fast he is, it can really be worth it. It's just a bit of a double-edged sword where you might be throwing away a lot of your army if you don't play it just right, or your opponent has the tools to deal with it. There's the strike from the Shadows stratagem. This is the +1 to hit and +1 AP in shooting. You know, it's pretty decent. Again, Calgar has some good guns to contribute to his squad, so it's always worth thinking about. And much like the squad tactics from Gladius, there's the calculated feint stratagem that lets Calgar and his unit make a move after they're being charged. This can be really good again if you've sort of infiltrated up, gone ploughing into one of the enemy's flanks and destroyed one of their units, and now they're sort of moving to counterattack. You can just move away after they've declared the charge. Potentially they stuff the charge, and then you move back towards them and charge them on your turn. Really, really good stuff. Can sort of allow this unit to amplify themselves and swing the game in your favour. So before we move on to the units that Calgar can lead and how to get the most out of those combinations, just thought I'd give a little breakdown of my thoughts. I've been more playing against Calgar this edition. He seems to spring up on the other side of the board and thump me upside the head quite a few times. It's getting alarming at this point. But yeah, he's been great all edition. His sort of points have gone up and up and up and then dropped down a bit because of some rules changes, but he definitely deserves those points going up. He's a fantastic unit. Whatever squad he's leading just becomes an absolute like highly mobile powerhouse. You know, I've seen him alongside all sorts of different things that we'll talk about later. Now, I think this old combo that there used to be where Calgar was with 6 aggressors and apothecary biologists, just way too expensive these days. Like they sort of really nuked that unit from orbit, which, you know, it was pretty good, but yeah, it's no longer sort of worth just the sheer amount of points you have to invest in it, just because it took multiple nerfs, just bash. But yeah, there's a lot of cheaper squads he can lead, and I think that's kind of a great way to use him, is to have him like leading a smaller, cheaper unit and just getting the most out of his skills and his abilities. And New Oath as well, that was a big buff for Calgar. The old rerolls to hit, he was already hitting on 2s anyway, so it was nice enough efficiency. But the +1 to wound again, it just tips him and his Vitrix over that edge of just really like wrecking enemy units. And yeah, that's kind of the thing with Calgar. He's just with that Oath of moment, his damage can always go hard. Even if he's on his own, he's a threat to almost any squad. You know, he'll take, you know, I've had him punch like 9 wounds off Mortarion, take out entire squads of Terminators on his own. Even just a vehicle that's like on 9 wounds is just in immediate danger from Calgar if he can get up to them and smash them. But he's not the most, like, again, he's not the most durable. Like, he's 200 points as well. So you're playing like, it's worth investing in killing him if you're on the other side of the field from him, if your opponent makes a bit of a mistake. The Vitrix do have those kind of tricky, weird kind of ability to manipulate saves, but it's kind of hard to plan out. So you just need to think about what guns are going into them. You know, if a lot of plasmas coming into the unit, the Vitrix might be good. If it's like lower AP stuff, like, yeah, you got AOC to think about. It can be quite tricky. But between his command point generation, he's just super worth it. Even if he holds in the backfield and kind of threatens a counterpunch, I think he's always worth it, even if he doesn't necessarily like get in there right away and start doing damage. Always good as a bit of a reserve force, Calgar. So there's a few units that this guy's really commonly seen leading, but I just wanted to point out he can lead a lot more than the stuff that you see him with. You know, you could run him with intercessors, having them be a backfield holder who stickies your home objective and then moves out to threaten that advance and charge. Not a terrible idea, really, and it just gives a cheap unit to kind of be ablative wounds for Calgar and his Vitrix. Alternatively, Stern Guard, get that advance and shoot going on, really, really good. And Stern Guard have a lot of attacks, so them ploughing into melee alongside Calgar isn't necessarily a terrible thing. And being able to fall back and charge, quite good for their shorter range guns. Or alternatively, heavy intercessors are just super cheap these days. I think them in a squad of Calgar, fulfilling a similar role to the normal intercessors, could be genuinely worth it. But there are definitely a few options that stand above these guys. I do want to give a quick little shout out to aggressors. These guys were like the original bodyguard for Calgar. They got nerfed like pretty badly, like just in points. They're just so expensive now for what they are. The main downside being their defense is just not quite what it was. T6, it just doesn't keep them alive. The Vitrix have good synergy in terms of them and the aggressors, but it's a too big a point ask with these guys in Calgar for like a big unit, especially once you start adding in another leader and some enhancements. It just gets crazy. Maybe a 3-man unit though. If you've got some aggressors and Calgar and you want to use them together, I'd say a 3-man unit with Calgar might not be a bad shout. So the first one I want to talk about is Blade Guard veterans. These guys really like the advance and charge that Calgar gives them, and they actually have some really good synergy kind of inside the unit. You could take 3 of these guys, I genuinely think. 80 points makes Calgar 280, still like Primarch level price, but it's a relatively durable squad that hits like a train. Of course you've got Calgar's melee, but the Blade Guard can boost that in a variety of ways. I mean, their sword's very similar to the Vitrix, so you want them to be going into similar kind of profiles, which is good. And also, their ability, their Blade Guard, it's just called, very well named. Basically, at the start of the combat, they can pick to hit rolls of 1 to reroll, or save rolls of 1. Now, why this is good is because it applies to their unit, which means those Vitrix, who also have a 4-up invulnerable save, they can be rerolling their save rolls of 1. Really good on the just keeping the unit in there in melee. Or if you're trying to wipe something out and you don't have Oath of Moment available because you needed it to, something in shooting, these guys, they give reroll those hit rolls of 1. Great for Calgar and his Vitrix with their high quality attacks. It just means you're not going to have that scenario where you're like, oh yeah, Calgar 6 attacks, oh, 3 1s to hit. Damn, I'm not doing any damage this turn. So yeah, Blade Guard, they're cheap, they're durable, an absolutely fantastic piece for Calgar to lead. I'd also say the company heroes, these are the popular kind of meta choice. They're really durable. These are basically 4-wound Marine veterans. You've got a guy in there with a heavy bolter and some like mastercrafted bolt rifles. You've got a company champion with decent melee, and they give OC buffs out. These guys are fantastic for Calgar. There's a reason that you see these guys in kind of all the Gladius lists. It always has Calgar and a squad of these guys running around. And they're phenomenal. They make you more durable. They get permanent -1 to wound. The Vitrix Guard, the way their number of wounds work and their saves really complement these guys. It's just fantastic. I'd really recommend checking out our company heroes video. That sort of really breaks down this combo of and how all that durability and all that synergy comes together. Yeah, super recommend watching that video if you want to run this squad with him. And finally, a bit of a weird choice, but the Eradicator squad. These guys are 100 points for 3 of them, then go alongside Calgar, makes a 300 point unit, or you can make a bigger squad if you want. Calgar gives these guys that advance and shoot. Really nice for getting in melter range. They're only move 5, so they kind of might struggle to kind of project themselves up onto the battlefield and hit enemy units. But with Calgar, gives them that added movement. It's really good. Also, Calgar gives them a kind of a melee punch, so they can't really get tied up as easily, and it even lets the squad kind of advance up, shoot a vehicle to death, and then charge into something else. So yeah, Calgar with a squad of these guys can actually be pretty good. It's expensive, but I do think it's a genuine decent choice with how vehicle heavy the meta's becoming with knights sort of running rampant and just general stuff. I mean, Ultramarines Gladius lists run like 3 dreadnoughts and 4 tanks or something crazy like that, so you do want these components available. And as well as that, being T6 means that you can sort of tank saves with the Vitrix, and the Vitrix still benefit from these guys' T6. So Vitrix and anyone in Gravis armor, they really complement each other. And so even though I don't think this is really worth it, for 500 points you can buy Calgar, an apothecary biologist with the fire discipline enhancement, and 6 eradicators. Now, why this is really good is because it's been nerfed. It was that good that Games Workshop just had to like knock points onto this and take chunks of the rules out. But yeah, the apothecary biologist can join the unit that Calgar's in as well. He gives the unit lethal hits. This is great. He also gives the unit sustained hits with the fire discipline enhancement. And you also get to reroll advances, which it isn't nothing because Calgar's unit can advance, shoot, and charge. So yeah, pretty good if you're in the Devastator Doctrine. That just getting that like guaranteed mobility going forward. It's super expensive, but it's also like it's really awesome. Like this unit will like probably flatten a big knight. I mean, obviously invulnerable saves are invulnerable saves, but yeah, it's like 8 shots, there's lethal, sustained, just completely wrecking huge vehicles. And then Calgar can even get into combat and punch some more of them to death. I mean, him and his Vitrix will both have lethal hits in combat. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, again, I don't think this is that great, but maybe with how like knight dominant the meta is, it might be worth trying out. Don't forget as well, this unit can Overwatch, and it still gets those reroll hits in Overwatch. So you get 8 shots out of the Eradicators. So you're bound to get a 6 on the Overwatch, and then you still get their full rerolls to hit out of the Overwatch. So say you get 3, I think being relatively conservative, you might get 3 6s on your Overwatch for this squad. You then can go, oh well, each of those 6s becomes a sustained hit and a lethal hit. So you do 3 auto wounds, and then also you roll to wound with full rerolls to wound thanks to the Eradicator's ability. So even if you only sneak 2 or 3 through, all of a sudden you can reroll the damage on those. You can one-shot like a little war dog or whatever they're called with this. So I don't know, it's stupid, but I kind of love it. So thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We try and make sort of weekly shows like this. Now, yeah, Calgar, what a unit. Spent the entirety of this edition taking my lunch money. I can never solve him. The riddle of Calgar, it just beats me up every time. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, good model, great unit. I'm not salty. Really recommend checking him out. And I think there's lots of work for sort of like customized, Space Marines are a bit weird how he's been an Ultramarine, but Space Marines can always sort of anyone can be an Ultramarine now. I don't see any reason you don't get a Gravis Captain and give him the double fists and make some cool custom bodyguards for him and run him as Calgar. I think that'd be cool for anyone out there. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and 300 subscribers. It's brilliant. I'm glad everyone's enjoying it. I sure enjoy making them. Bye, guys.